Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, which means, of course, Internet Watch 2023 is in effect yet again. We are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. Don't forget, you can get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. If you are watching on YouTube, please click that like button and click that subscribe button. And as always, smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. For example, such as nights like tonight when we're talking about a kick-ass new movie. So without further ado, let me bring on my best friend and my brother, AJ. As you can tell, I am pumped up to talk about some goddamn Dial of Destiny, man. I am ready for this.
Same.
So
I'll tell you what, man.
Full disclosure, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I really was this close to like getting out of work at like 3:30 today to make the 4:10 showing so we could see it one more time before going live tonight.
That was an actual conversation. I mean, that was something we were talking about, was like, because you had that internet outage this afternoon. You were like, we can't really do a podcast without me being online. I was like, that would give us time to see the movie again.
I wanted to, man. Oh, Cale McLeish, as always, good to see you, brother. He says, Indiana John and the Atom of Doom. How's it going, guys? I think Cale just coined us our new nickname. I kind of like that a lot, dude. I think that's good. So, yeah, I'm very excited to see this. I'm a little flush right now. I spent over an hour in the kitchen before this episode. So I've been, over 4 burners and the oven going. I was cooking 3 meals at once, and but I'm ready to rock. So I'm very much looking forward to this.
Hell yeah, man! I'm not as flush as I look. It's just that I've got orange as my lighting scheme tonight. In honor of Indy. So,
well, I'm as flush as I look. So
also, I did spend a couple hours out in the blazing sun this weekend at a brewery for a midget wrestling event. So
okay,
yeah, that was poorly advertised. They didn't tell us that it was going to be outside and no chairs provided. So
well, how are they going to hit each other if there's no chairs provided?
Right.
So all right, so let's just jump right into this, okay? I mean, can we just say it? We love the movie.
Yeah,
this is like there's so much to talk about here because this is a very interesting Indiana Jones movie because I hate to phrase it this way, but it does take you on a ride. Mm-hmm. Like by the time you get done watching it, you realize you were up here and then you were down here and then you were back up here. Like it was, man. Yeah, Kale says it. He says, full disclosure, I've only seen the film once and all caps, it absolutely freaking rules. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I was so pleased with it. It's not even funny. And quick disclosure, AJ, if my video goes wonky as it is wont to do, my audio is fine. So just go with it, because eventually it'll fix itself, as usual. But yeah, this was very much a surprise for me, because it is. I think this one's a little deeper. In fact, I would say this one's a lot deeper than the other 4 Indiana Jones movies, but it still has that sense of fun, and I loved it. I mean, I was really nervous that I wasn't going to be into it, first and foremost because I was so excited for it. So, you know how I am, how I get super up for things, and if it's not like the greatest thing ever, then I'm all of a sudden like, man, that's a bummer, and I
don't know, man. You had fun with Crystal Skull, so clearly you can have fun with a lot of stuff if you want to.
Listen,
and I'm not getting on a whole like hating of Crystal Skull thing. I'm just saying, like, usually you're the apologist that can have fun with pretty much anything.
Yeah,
so I'm surprised to hear you say that you were trepidatious going into this one.
Well, I mean, I was. I mean, number one, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I love it. Okay, obviously, me and Sean Faust and I did a whole episode about in defense of. I love the movie. That being said, it's definitely prior to this one, it was the worst of the 4, but I still loved it because it was an Indiana Jones movie. And so I was a little nervous because, okay, are they going to kind of go 0 for 2 on these last two, if you want to phrase it that way? But also, it was somebody else doing it. It was, when I found out James Mangold was doing it, I was like, okay, thank God all the recent Star Wars stuff has been excellent, because that gave me hope. Like, okay, people that aren't the original creators, but that come at it from a fan perspective and have a lot of talent making shows and movies and stuff, like, they can really pull this off. So I was excited for that reason, but by the same token, I was also nervous.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it with Star Wars, like they effed up the prequels, or excuse me, the sequels, and then it started getting better. They kind of learned from their mistakes. This was just basically, okay, it's not Steven Spielberg and George Lucas making an Indiana Jones movie. Oh shit.
Well, I think the difference is, like, when the sequel trilogy came out, that was a bunch of people doing an impersonation of George Lucas, right? Like, they were trying to just evoke the member berries. They were trying to do an impersonation of George Lucas instead of going back to the source material that inspired George Lucas and letting that inspire them, which is why, like, The Mandalorian and all that stuff came out so much better, because, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau went back to what inspired George to create Star Wars, and then you get a genuine feeling Star Wars that way. The same thing. James Mangold, I don't think, tried to be Steven Spielberg with this one. Yeah. I think he went back to, like, what made Indiana Jones movies in the first place? Like, what inspired Indiana Jones? And then he made his own Indiana Jones movie based off those inspirations.
Yeah. And I think he wrote it. I think this is probably the most intelligent writing of any of the five. One of the things that, when I first got out of the theater, was one of the first things I thought was that it's written to the speed of the age of the character. It is. Mm-hmm. And there goes the video again. I love when that happens. It's in the late 60s. Indiana Jones is technically, I want to say 70. His birthday's in like 1899 or something. And so the movie, while it's longer than the others, and it does move a little slower, I think that fits the character perfectly. You can't, as much as I love watching Indiana Jones just flying around kicking ass, like, you can't do that with a character this age, because at that point you kind of you have to put some of that you have to suspend reality a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I thought the way they did that was absolutely brilliant, because they're brilliant. There were slow points in the movie, and I thought that really played up to the age of the character as he is right now, supposedly about 70 years old or whatever.
Yeah, and they let the younger characters take more of the action on, and it wasn't like in Crystal Skull, they kind of, like, what's the phrase, hung a lampshade on it, right?
Yeah,
like, he botches a couple things in the warehouse, right? He's like, damn, I thought that was closer.
Yeah,
like they're really, like, making a point that Indy is he's aged beyond his prime.
Yeah,
but they did it in, like, a not fun way. They did it in a, I don't know, in this way, he was, like, old and broken, and it was sad, but it was more, like, believable, because it wasn't like it wasn't telling the audience, remember the guy that well, he's not that guy anymore. They were just like, look, it's a dude living his life. If you had never seen Indiana Jones before and just picked it up with this movie, you would still know why this guy was sad and, a little bit heartbroken in life in general. It didn't rely on you having seen him at his best to understand why he wasn't at his best right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of that is, dude, is that, like, Crystal Skull had a feeling of, oh, Indy's breaking down, he's getting older. It's, he's older Indy now. Oh boy, it's definitely coming to a close. Whereas this one kind of ends on a, I mean, they by the way, as always, when we see a new movie, there's going to be spoilers in this, but, they fully say, like, are you back? Which, I mean, as the movie goes on, it goes from, it starts out with an awesome Indiana Jones sequence. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. Apparently, I can't speak tonight. And then it gets sad and, like, kind of like a downer. I was like, what is this? Like, I'm feeling sad. Like, it's like I'm just watching an old broken down man. Like, what is that? but then by the time you get to the end of the movie, you realize it was kind of like a redemption. It was like a return to form. It was, whereas Crystal Skull kind of went, nah, it's okay. Yeah, he was Indiana Jones, but he was just older Indiana Jones, and you could tell. And it was like, okay, cool. He gets married. Like it felt like he was going to slow down. Whereas this one, I mean, we're not going to have anymore, but it felt like, okay, you could have more adventures. It was like, okay, like it's hopeful, I guess. And I thought that was amazing writing. I love that about it. So I think it was just a different type of a thing, Kale wants to. Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, Kale wants to know, why does the film, with only 1/3 of the Ford Lucas Spielberg trio at the helm, feel less like a fan film than the last time they all got together? That's a really good question. I think because they're so close to the source material, Kale, this is what I would guess. It's almost like when you're a musician and you do like a comeback record, you're like, oh, you know what the fans really like is when I do this. But then you're just trying too hard. Whereas I think James Mangold, to your point, AJ, you just mentioned this, he was just trying to make a good Indiana Jones movie. He wasn't, I have to hit all the high spots. Like, and he did hit the high spots, but they were very subtle. You always use the term member berries, and we got that, but they were very subtle. To the point where I was in the theater going, yes, like, because it wasn't some big ham-fisted, obvious thing. And I think instead of him, because he wasn't so close to it, he just wanted to make a damn good Indiana Jones film. Also because he knew there were 4 that came before him. And, it's like J.J. Abrams just wanted to make a damn good Star Wars movie with Episode 7. I mean, he failed miserably, but he wanted to make a damn good Star Wars movie. Instead, they just rewrote 3/4 of fucking A New Hope, and off they went. But anyway, I'll die on that hill. But anyhow, I mean, what do you think about that, AJ? I really think that's what it is. I think the pressure was so strong. He's just like, you know what? I just want to make. I'm using the character of Indiana Jones, and as a fan of Indiana Jones, I know what it's supposed to be. But I also just want to make a damn good movie and a well-written, smart, enjoyable film.
I'm glad Kale asked this question because I've been trying to figure it out myself too. Like, because the obvious comparison, it kind of feels like there's an Indiana Jones trilogy and then there's 2 more attempts. It doesn't feel like there's this like 5-film compendium of Indiana Jones stories.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm like, I rewatched Crystal Skull recently, and yeah, I'm not any bigger fan of it than I was. I think I'm just getting used to it, so it doesn't bother me as much. That's the best I could say for it, man.
Yeah.
But then when I saw this, I'm like, okay, I could see stark differences now, knowing like it is possible to bring something else to the Indiana Jones franchise that the first 3 didn't have, and still also feel like it's of a piece with the other movies.
Yeah, I agree.
Crystal Skull, I kind of give a pass. I'm like, well, what else could they do? Like, okay, so of course they went to aliens. They've already, tackled Christianity and Nazis and immortality and the Holy Grail. Like, where do you go from there? So sure, let's bring some aliens into it. But then they actually found something that was, it's weird to say, more grounded when we're talking about, spoiler, time travel.
Yeah.
But
right.
It was, pardon the pun, dialed back from Crystal Skull, where like at the end it was just like Luke ILM was just like, look at all the cool shit we can do. And now this one was more like, well, let's do what works for the movie instead of just having fun with all of our new computer toys. I think part of what it is one, it is entirely possible when you've made a bunch of movies that you just kind of run out of ideas, and then you're just trying too hard. Like you were saying with the whole like member berries when a band like gets back together. As much as we love Different Kind of Truth from Van Halen, a lot of people hated it because it was just like they took all the material that wasn't good enough to make the cut.
AJ, we're not going to do that. I just removed you from the stream for a reason. We do not disrespect that album. There's way more to it than just old demos. Don't go there, because then we're going to have a whole nother episode right now about why that is not true. So back to your point. We are not using Van Halen as an example. Continue, please. You should have known better than that.
Are you finished?
Can I finish?
Are you finished?
Okay, I'm finished.
Okay.
Yes. Oh my
But yeah,
Lord.
the one knock on Different Kind of Truth is that it was all like B-level material. Otherwise, it would have been on the records already.
Okay.
And they had to like make a whole record out of old ideas because they were trying to recapture a sound that they didn't really have in them anymore. If that makes sense. Like, again,
No,
I'm
I
not
can
ripping
see
on the
that.
album. I know I'm treading on thin ice here. I don't want to get banned again, but but you know what I mean? Like, they were trying to recapture the old glory. So they started with the old glory. And I feel like Crystal Skull was kind of the same. Like, the first thing was, remember the warehouse from the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark? We're back there again. Like,
Yeah.
they were doing callbacks just for, you know, the sake of it rather than it making sense in the story. Whereas every time something came up from the lore of the Indiana Jones movies in this one, it was organic to the story to bring it up.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot better. You know, like towards the end where he's, you know, climbing a wall and we realize that he's a 70-year-old Indiana Jones climbing a friggin' wall. He's like, I'm 40 feet up in the air. I've been shot. I've been
9 times.
you
Yeah.
know, stabbed with voodoo and like all like, yeah, okay. Well, it makes sense at that moment when you're looking like you're about to shit yourself that you remember all the times that this sort of thing completely screwed you over. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and I mean, you make excellent points for it. I mean, you really do, because if you really, in a vacuum, the way that you describe it, it's basically like, okay, the first 3 do feel like a trilogy, but it's not like a combined thing. It's just, hey, Indiana Jones is going on a new adventure, and Crystal Skull went down that path. It's Indiana Jones is on a new adventure, but Dial of Destiny added something to it. You know, like you said, they did dial it back. It was a little more grounded. Even though time travel was like the you know, penultimate thing. Circle J, good to see you. Just use Saint Anger next time. Right? Nice. But yeah, I mean, it just feels more like, you know what it is, dude? I think it's like this movie, like Indiana Jones. Okay, and pardon me for being emotional guy, but go figure. Indiana Jones like means something to me. You know, I posted online when I first got out of the theater, like, this is a 42-year journey for me. Like, I saw Raiders in the theater 17 times when I was 5 years old. I made Dad take me over and over and over and over to the old Berea Theater. And I have, you know, it's my second favorite movie character of all time. There's Han Solo, and then a very close second place is Indiana Jones. And I care about this character. I care about these movies. It's like, I love them. Like, I'm so excited. And this movie felt like the people that were making it actually cared about it as well, because there was a little bit more to it. I could tell that the people making the movie actually cared like I do. You know what I mean? It wasn't just, let's go have Indiana Jones running around kicking ass, which I love. That's what I signed on for. That's what I spent my $15, you know, in the theater for. But there was something more to it that made him that it was like, since the whole thing's coming full circle, this movie made it feel like, okay, well, the whole time, Indiana Jones has just been more than some kick-ass archaeologist, and he means something to us. I mean, and so, Cale, to your point about being a fan movie, I think this is like the best way to do a fan movie, because you know, we loved the character previously because he was just awesome to watch, but now we love him because it's like, hey, remember that there actually is humanity to this guy, like. You know, dude, when the ending made me cry, full disclosure, and that's the dumbest thing to say over a stupid action movie, let's be honest. But I'm one of those people that if I get super, super excited, I'll cry, full disclosure. Like, any of you who are watching this or listening to this and know me really well know that happens to me. But and this one really got me for that reason, but also because it was kind of emotional. It was really cool. You know, again, spoiler alert, at the end when they recreated the whole, you know, where does it hurt? Here, and they did it in reverse. That was just like, oh my God, like, you know, to use your term again, AJ, if you're gonna go for the member berries, that is exactly how you do it. And it was just so good. And I mean, I keep thinking about it more and more and more as the days have gone by. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be blowing some serious money on this thing, like to the point where I'm going to Newport, Kentucky on Sunday, the morning after my Brother Believe Me show. I'm going to see Dream Theater the next night, and I'm going by myself. I'm hitting the road early because there's a movie theater that's walking distance from the concert venue and the Airbnb I got. I'm going to see this goddamn movie again. I'm doing it. I'm gonna drink some bourbon. I'm gonna watch some goddamn Indiana Jones, and we'll watch some goddamn Dream Theater. That's basically like John's boner day because Eddie Van Halen can't be there to celebrate it with me. So, and I love it because it's so good, man. And you and I, like, we were trying to concoct these harebrained schemes to go see it again today before we jumped online here. And I mean, man.
Well, it's okay. You got two things going for you. One, we've got the nostalgia of Indiana Jones, but I feel like this is where a lot of the Star Wars stuff ran afoul. Was you can't just do a nostalgia piece, right? You can't just do all callbacks and make the same movie again. As much as you say, like, all I want to see is Han Solo kicking ass on Millennium Falcon. If that's all you wanted to see, you've already got movies of that. You want to see something at least a little different. You want to see something that evokes memories, but also brings something new to the table. And this movie like spans that perfectly. Like I was noticing, like during the action sequences, for example, it was too high energy at times, I would say, like for reality's sake. Like they're racing tuk-tuks, for example, and it makes them look like they're going like 50 miles an hour down. And, they're going like 10. That's all those things could muster. But you know what? It wouldn't have played well enough if they didn't amp it up for modern audiences. So they made it seem like all high energy, like a modern action sequence, but still Indiana Jones was in there and he was like swinging between the tuk-tuks. And then when he punches somebody, you get that classic Indiana punch sound, like, he screws something up, but ends up in a better position for it. Cause he just seems to like fail upward every time the shit's hitting the fan,
Right.
Like so they had all the hallmarks of Indiana Jones, but they also wrapped it in like a shiny new wrapper that was like, we know what you want to see, but we also know what you expect in a movie in 2023. So we're going to give you both.
Yeah. I think
absolutely outstanding. Yeah.
I completely agree. I think it's one of those things like where Crystal Skull made a lot of people go, oh no, are they going to make another one of these? I think Dial of Destiny is going to make people go, God damn it, they're not going to make another one of these.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the perfect. It's almost like the perfect bookend to the whole thing because it like leaves you with that just feeling of fun, and it's like there's so much to it. Like it's such a great way to end everything, and of all things, like to end it with time travel. I mean, you weren't sitting next to me. Steph was laughing, and I went with the band guys. I went with Carp and Jonah and Steph, and Jonah and I are huge Indiana Jones guys, but he also knows my hatred of the whole time travel shit in movies where it just does not belong. So when I realized what was going on, I was like, oh, they better not, man. They better not show. And sure enough, when they travel back to like whatever the hell the siege of Syracuse with Archimedes and shit, I was like, I made this noise and Steph and Joan are both laughing because they knew in my head I'm going, are you fucking kidding me? We're going to end Indiana Jones with goddamn time travel. So the next thing I'm waiting for is these space whales to come through a hole in the fissure in the fucking sky. I'm like, let's just do that. Lucasfilm. Why don't you call this movie Indiana Jones and the fuck you, John? Just call it that. But even that, like they ended it on like the most Indiana Jones thing you could ever end it on. And somehow it was cool. Even for me, who can't stand the time travel thing, I was like, you know what? I'll accept that. And then when he's like, well, I'm going to stay here. Like, I was so torn. I'm like, wait a minute. No, that can't. No, you can't have the ending like him just be stuck in history. Like, and then they're going to show some tomb. Like some new guy's going to come along and discover Indiana Jones's body. And, like he's going to go, what the hell is this? And hold up a whip and a hat. And you go, dun, 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 dun. Like, I'm like, I thought, okay, that'd be a cool way to end. But no, like there's got to be something more. So even then it was just tugging at me. But I mean, man, oh man. Like,
this is how good the ending was, though. I would have been fine either way because the way they did it was great. And yes, they had me faked out too. I thought he was staying put.
Yeah, I did too.
Even before the credits rolled, before he even, ended up back in his own time, I was like, I'm okay with this because I remember, the classic exchange. It belongs in a museum.
Yeah.
So do you.
Exact. Yes, I thought this.
He might be in a museum. He might be in a museum.
Same thing. I thought the exact same thing.
But he did. So there's only a couple acceptable forms of time travel. And this is what they call the closed loop time travel. This is Back to the Future time travel, right?
Well, my buddy
basically
George
saying like Marty McFly had to go back in time to make sure his parents got together, to make sure he was born, so he could go back in time to get his parents, like. So this was like the one acceptable form of time travel. This wasn't like Marvel multiverse time travel. This wasn't DCEU Flash style time travel, which is a different thing and doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about it. This wasn't Spider-Man across the multiverse, across the Spider-Verse time travel. Yeah, it was like the simplest form of time travel that played well in the Indiana Jones universe.
Yeah. Well, and it made sense. I mean,
Mhm.
my buddy George, good to see you, brother. He
As
says,
soon as I realized it was Back to the Future style time travel, I was like, John's going to be okay with this.
yeah, no, I was. George says it felt like it's kind of Goonies with a mix of Back to the Future. Like, yeah, I could see that, George. And I mean, AJ, you're right. It's like, when they say basically Archimedes designed this thing to basically save his people during this, siege of Syracuse, where apparently he died or whatever. Like, that's cool. That's like, oh, I got to save our asses. Like, that's okay. That's an interesting way to go about it. Like, it was cool. So yeah, I was so nervous when they're like, oh look, there's like, boats and sails and spears. I'm going, oh God, what are we doing? Like, I was so into it, and then I got so depressed. And speaking of highs and lows, I was like, oh shit, like, oh no, God damn it, like. But it turned out to be awesome. And segueing into something else that's awesome, Kale brought up in the comments. This ties into something that I have been saying about The Mandalorian and Star Wars and the way they're writing things, that I think they're trying to course correct the sequel trilogy and write things that make those make sense and make people enjoy it better. Kale says, speaking of humanity to the character, can we talk about the holy shit levels of course correction with Mutt? That just made me feel bad for not liking him anymore. That was incredible. Where
Dude, you talk about you cried at some point. Like, that was the one that really hit me.
Yeah. That was
like, Jesus, that's dark for Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I mean, but it was like God, I hate to say it makes sense, but it made sense. I mean, it was a way to
you got to address where is he, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they did it like in such a smart way based on, the time period and even to their character relationship from the Crystal Skull. When he's like, yeah, if you could change one, she says, if you could change one moment in history, what would you change? And he says, well, I would, not have my kid go off to war because he would, then he wouldn't die and it wouldn't cost me my marriage. Basically, it's a longer speech and it's much more emotional, but you're just like, holy crap. Like that and that goes back to what I was talking about. The writing in this is so intelligent and so brilliant. And they took a character which is not very well liked and made you feel bad for him and made him make more sense, made the relationship make more sense within just a couple sentences. And to me, that's always the best kind of writing. Because when you can take something that someone really doesn't enjoy and within a few sentences make them realize, like, okay, maybe I was invested a little bit, maybe there is some meat on that bone, that's brilliant. And I thought they did that in so many ways in this movie, and that might be the biggest example. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was awesome.
The other thing that stood out to me in that scene is we love Harrison Ford for the characters that he plays. We kind of forget, though, because he doesn't have a lot that he needs to do. Like Han Solo and Indiana Jones are action heroes. Mm-hmm. So when Harrison Ford gets a chance to act, you kind of it surprised the crap out of me because I forget that the guy has serious acting chops when he needs to. Like, he's in the middle of this stupid time travel, archaeologist action hero adventure, and then he rattles off this family history. I'm like, holy shit, I felt that. Like,
yeah.
I forgot this guy can do that.
Right. Yeah. The whole
talk about a great that I think that's what's so great about this movie is you've got Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford being Indiana Jones, and he feels like Indiana Jones. Like, the actor hasn't aged out of the role. Instead, the role has aged up with him, which is great. So it still feels like it doesn't feel like you don't feel bad for Harrison Ford doing this movie. Like, I wish they would just let him retire and stop hanging on to Old Glory, because the character,
right.
Fits for him right now. And then also in the midst of this popcorn movie, basically, he gets to like have this one scene that's like Oscar award winning. You know, like
Yeah.
if they want to put him up for an award for like that scene alone, I'd be like, yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
It,
Well, I
it
mean,
came out of nowhere in this movie. I'm like, shit. Now this thing really has stakes for me.
yeah. And I honestly, I thought the acting was phenomenal all the way through. By the way, Sean Faust, you have an email you should go check. I thought the acting was phenomenal all the way through because Indiana Jones was still kicking ass the way that I wanted him to kick ass, but yet it still felt like, okay, he's older and he's a little broken down. But I could believe that he could still pull these things off somehow. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was, dude, everything about this, like, the more I think about it, like, I was all kinds of pissed off because, like, I was all kinds of pissed off because Amazon does that whole, new releases in the theater thing. Spend $25 and you could rent like the Mario movie. I could not have jumped on, like speaking of Back to the Future, George, I had fire trails coming off my ass jumping on Amazon and be like, please let me do it. And I couldn't get it. I had the whole damn weekend off after Saturday night, and I was going to watch the shit out of some Indiana Jones, and I couldn't do it. I was like, God damn it. So... oh my God, I wanted to so bad. But oh man. So
yeah.
All right, so
no,
Kale's
I
got
totally
a good
get
comment. Kale's got a good comment
I
here that you wanted to discuss a little bit.
Yeah, because this is something that I thought, like, the reason I wanted to see it again before we did the show, and I wish I had, because, you know, it's one of those things where you just like, you see it the first time and you're just absorbing it and enjoying it the whole time. And I really wanted a second watch to like be a little bit more grounded in my opinions. But this is one of the things that I thought of even in the theater when as soon as I saw the divorce papers from Marion, I was like, I feel like we've seen an old Harrison Ford estranged from the love of his character's life before.
Yeah.
And how it was based around something that went sour with their kid. So did that occur to you when you saw it? And did you have a problem with that at all?
I didn't.
By the way, for the audio listeners, sorry, Kale's comment, forgot we got to do that. Yeah. Kale's comment was, even though that did make me draw parallels to Han and Leia and TFA, speaking about the whole, Marion and Indy thing.
Yeah, Force Awakens. No, I kind of looked at it as, I guess, like the tiniest piece of me thought it might have been maybe the tiniest bit redundant. But then again, I kind of thought, okay, well, in his later years, he's kind of more of a fuck up. So I thought, man, it didn't bother me as much as I thought it should. And I thought immediately it kind of added some weight to it. Whereas in Crystal Skull, Marion was kind of ham-fisted into it a little bit. This kind of made more sense. It was like, again, more grounded. So I do have somebody that I want to bring on the show real quick, but we do have a comment from Danbo22. Good to see you, man. He says, this Raiders and Last Crusade honestly feels more like a proper trilogy, with Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull being the filler adventures. That is a pretty damn good take, dude. We were talking about how the first three are obviously a trilogy, and then Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny are kind of, added stuff. But you know what, AJ? I think he makes a really, really good point, because Raiders
here.
Well,
especially because people forget that Temple was a prequel.
Yeah, well, exactly. And also Raiders and Last Crusade and this one have the emotional stuff to it, whereas, Crystal Skull and Temple of Doom are just kind of like, hey, we're kicking ass. So let's get the opinion of somebody who is on my side as far as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is concerned.
By the way, Danbo, glory to Master Koga.
I love when we go down this nerd rabbit hole, man. Oh my God.
Sorry, that's a Zelda reference that you wouldn't get, John.
Well, Sean, it is good to see you, man. For those of you guys who are not familiar with Sean, he and I did the amazing episode in defense of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which AJ completely disagreed with. But Sean and I have been emailing about this damn movie for months. And when I saw you comment, I had to get you on to like have you, throw in your 2 cents worth. So let's start right there with Danbo's comment. I mean, I think he makes a really good point, saying that Raiders and Last Crusade and Dial of Destiny are almost like a trilogy, and Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull are kind of like the outliers. What do you think?
Dude, I mean, I was thinking it today, halfway through the new movie for my second watch. I was like, the best Indiana Jones movies are the ones with Nazis.
I would, you know what? I was going to say that earlier and I didn't bring it up yet, but yes, I was really glad they brought back the Nazis. Like, okay, have they been the villain before? Yeah, but who cares? It's a perfect foil for Indiana Jones. He's as all-American as it gets.
And it made sense.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Pick up on the whole thread of how like former Nazis did help the space program.
That part cracked me up. I was like, wow, we're really tying some real shit into this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, so Sean, I mean, you and I emailed, like I say, a bunch, and you and I have been looking forward to this like crazy, like,
Yeah.
as AJ has as well. So, I mean, first impression, because you and I, and AJ, I think, I told you about this. My first impression was very The Force Awakens ish, or excuse me, The Last Jedi ish. Like where I got out of the theater and I loved it, and I'm like, I can't wait to see this again. But I'm like, man, there's a lot to unpack there. There's like, it's more to think about. So now that you've seen it twice, and now we can actually talk about it. Like, I mean, initially, I'll ask you, Sean, first, and then you, AJ. As soon as you got out of the theater, what the hell were you thinking? I'll start with you, Sean.
I've got this whole thing where I go into movies with zero expectations. Just let it be what it's going to be. I don't put any of my ego on it because, it's crazy. But like, this is 42 years of fandom where it just, I don't know. That first watch, I walked out kind of like The Last Jedi where, man, that was kind of different. But today I was like, no, that's not different at all. That's a great Indiana Jones flick. And
Yep.
like just every Easter egg in that movie, like just once you know where it is, and like I'm sure you guys when you first saw it were like, oh man, did you see that? Holy crap, that's there, and wow, that's good. And just the second time, it actually adds more to the story. It's not just there for the hell of it. But man, I walked out like halfway through this viewing, I was like, I really love this movie. How did I ever have any doubts?
Yeah, I was kind of, not that I had doubts, but I knew I would love it just because it's Indiana Jones.
I mean, it's no Crystal Skull.
We can all agree on that.
Yeah, and it's a much better movie than Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're gonna revisit that one in a minute here, but yeah, I mean, dude, it was like before we get to your immediate take, AJ, I gotta say it's funny, like, because I went again with a couple of my band guys and my wife, and Jonah and I tend to, the stuff we nerd out on, we really nerd out on. So literally the rest of the night, because we saw the 12:40 show, and then we had to run back and change real quick and head out, and we were performing that night. And all night long, we kept leaning over to each other, and I would go to like dun 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 dun, and so he would purposely wait till he knew I had a really high note coming up that I had to really make sure I was breathing for, and I'd be just about to take a breath, and I'd hear dun in my ear, like we were just doing it all night long. We did a shot together, and I just and he goes, cheers. I go, no, and we look at the same time. We both went dun. Like we were on this Indiana Jones high, man. It was so freaking cool. So, but yeah, same question to you, AJ. Like, as soon as you got out of the theater, because this is, God, I can't remember the last time that there was a movie that is this important to you and I, a franchise this important to you and I, that we did not see it opening night together. Like that hasn't happened in decades. I think I'm almost positive decades.
Yeah.
So.
And the crazy part is, like, you're the bigger Indiana Jones fan between the two of us, but I was so hyped up for this movie. I went by myself the first day it came out, opening day. You were the one that actually was able to hold off for 2 days. So yeah, like I got out of the theater. My first thought was, God damn it, JT, why haven't you seen this yet?
Now, in my defense, I could not hold back. I didn't have a choice. I was podcasting the night it came out, and then I had gigs the next 2 nights, so I was kind of stuck.
I went to 11 p.m. showing. I was up till like 3 a.m. because of going to this movie. I didn't care.
Okay, well, you also work 100% solely from home, and I'm not used to that type of schedule on a work night. So you were more hardcore than me on this one. So, but
the first thought that I had as I was watching the whole movie was like, I don't even have to try to like this. I just like it.
Yeah.
Like Crystal Skull, every time I watch it, I'm trying to find things to like. It's not just organically, oh, that's a good movie. It's like, it's Indiana Jones. You love Indiana Jones. He's doing Indiana Jones things. You should like it. Instead, this one is just like, it's a great movie. Like if I had no affinity for Indiana Jones, I would still go into this and be like, this is cool. Like I don't
Wow,
know
okay.
like why this old guy is doing all this stuff, assuming I didn't know Indiana Jones. But I'd be like, this is fun. Like he's got this sidekick in Helena that can't be trusted. So he's kind of working with her, but also getting backstabbed at the same time, like all the time. Like there's so much back and forth going on. Like it's great. It's great. It reminded me of Temple of Doom, but only if Short Round was a total piece of shit. He's got the shifty sidekick, except instead of the shifty sidekick being on his side, the shifty sidekick is only coincidentally on his side because their goals align.
Yeah. That's a damn good way to phrase it, dude. Like, wow. And by the way, speaking of Easter eggs, Sean, like AJ, I'm sure you caught it too, but the little call out to Short Round a little bit, the teeny little bit of, I was like, dude,
the origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff was just, like I say, like I mean, I don't know when you tuned in, Sean, but like we've been talking about, I mean, this movie is just so intelligently written. Like it's got all the awesome Indiana Jones beats that you want, but there's so many smart things to this one. It adds layers to the Indiana Jones story, and I just love it, man. Like I felt like I went for a ride by the time I got to the end of it, because it was, like I say, it starts out, you got this amazing damn it, Bill Schindelholtz, good to see you, by the way, buddy. He says the monkeys and ants killed Crystal Skull. Come on, man.
Look, no, the ants killed that giant Russian guy, but they didn't kill the movie.
Thank you. Oh, and by the way, you know what? Here, you ready for this? Here's a Purgle moment. Holy shit, I'm going solo for this one. I'm on a roll. It's time to go solo. All right. Listen, Indiana Jones, I get it. Every movie has to have a gross out scene. You had the snakes, okay? You had the bugs. That's pushing it a little, assholes. I do not like bugs. Then you had rats. I can handle rats. Okay. Then you had ants. Back to bugs. Not a fan. So in this one, eels. Cool. Okay. I can handle eels. Don't like underwater shit. So that was a kind of okay. I don't mind. What the fuck is with the giant goddamn millipedes? What is with the giant millipedes of all things? Why those? Like, oh my God, that scared the shit out of me. I hate those things. I made an ass of myself in the Cleveland Metropolitan Zoo getting scared off my nuts because of one of those things, and you put 8 million of them in the movie. Couldn't you have done something with kittens or puppies or something? Throw me some kind of bone. It's the last Indiana Jones movie. Put like golden retriever puppies in there. And he's like, oh God, we're going to die. Oh no, we're going to roll around. It's going to be cute and fun. Yay. Do, 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 do. No, it's got to be giant goddamn millipedes. Why? Ugh.
You pussy.
I'm sorry.
Can I bring it up really quick?
I hate those bugs. As soon as I saw them, like my wife was pissing herself because I was going, oh my God, I felt like they were all over me. All right, anyway, sorry, it's just,
I want to point something out about that scene, and it's both times I've noticed an inconsistency in the entire franchise, just with that. The opening scene of Raiders, he just does not give a shit about bugs or spiders or anything like that. So why is he caring now?
Because he realized how disgusting that shit is. It is fucking creepy.
They're tasty.
He's like, I'm sick and tired of being covered in bugs. What the F?
Was he scared of them, or was he just like, I know I got to get these things off of me?
He's more like, get them off. Like when I first saw it, I kind of was like that too, thinking like, oh wait, he's getting really scared. He's more chasing Helena, who's freaking out because she's got to do the Willie Scott thing. But towards the end of that scene, though, he's also still. It's not a. It's a get them off me. I don't want these on me thing. It's not like him being afraid of the sea snakes. Chilled monkey brains are delicious.
Ugh. That was a great scene. Mm-hmm. That was. It wasn't scary though. That was more like comedic. I think Circle J. I think that was more.
Yeah, I always picture that being that Jello mold ring that you could get at the grocery store in the deli section.
So gross.
Like, it's clearly God. Jello.
Well, Jello and pudding and other things if you watch the behind the scenes, but who's counting? So, all right. So I don't remember where the hell I was. I just got giant millipedes on my mind and freak out.
Okay, let's start at the beginning because I want to ask you both. because
Okay.
one of the most controversial things, if there is such a thing, was the entire intro, right? The whole digitally de-aged Harrison Ford, the flashback, the 25-minute flashback. What did you guys think of that?
Sean, I wish I could have soloed the look on your face because I was thinking the same thing. Like, all I know is I leaned over to Jonah after that opening sequence was over, and I went, "I just got my money's worth." He said, "I did too." Like, if it would ended right there, they jump in the river and shit. They're like, "Oh, the Dial of Destiny. We don't know where the hell that is." Dun, 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 dun. I'm like, sweet dude, a 25-minute Indiana Jones movie, and it kicked ass. I don't know what there is to of all scenes in the movie. That might be the one I would think you complain about the least. I don't know about how you feel, Sean, but to me that was as Indiana Jones as it gets.
I had a musical problem with it the first time, but not this time because it was pretty much like John Williams just rehashed Belly of the Steel Beast for most of it. Which kind of, which bothered. At first, I was like, "Oh, cool, all right, yeah, you get me into this with this, familiar music, all right." And then like a few minutes later, I'm like, "Oh, you're just still using this, and you're not giving me anything new." Kale just nailed it. It's a mini movie.
Yeah.
The de-aging looked fine. I think the
Yeah, I
best
agree.
de-aging I've still seen is Sam Jackson, Captain Marvel, but this was pretty damn close.
Yeah. I love the bomb part because I was like, "Oh man, here we go." But it was awesome. It was like the fridge. It was like, okay, so everybody else dies from this bomb, but he's still hanging there. And of course, not only is he hanging there, but he's in a noose.
That was my favorite. Yeah. Like,
Oh, it's so
okay,
good.
so my take on that whole flashback scene is that I wonder, I would love to show it to like a kid or someone who like didn't know the actual age of Harrison Ford. So I would love to show it to somebody who didn't know that they were watching a digitally de-aged character.
Yeah.
Because knowing that going in, I was looking for the problems, right? So even though the problems were hard to spot, I could tell that they were shooting around the face because they knew that was like the trouble that they were going to get into.
Right.
So that was the one thing I'm like, if they were just shooting a young guy doing this stuff, they would have filmed it differently. The camera choices would have been different.
Yeah.
So that stood out to me a little bit. Not because there was a problem, just because they were deliberately avoiding trouble. But that noose scene was amazing. I was like, this is so ridiculous in all the best ways. Like it was like the chair when he was tied up back to back with his dad in the castle in Last Crusade.
Yep.
I'm like, this is completely preposterous, but hilariously awesome at the same time.
Yeah. My buddy George says it. He says, "Dude, the CGI in Indy was amazing. Couldn't really tell. But then again, it's Disney and Lucasfilm, so like, yeah, I agree. I've seen people complaining about the CG. I'm like, number one, you can't really tell. If you're looking for it, then get the fuck out of the movie theater because why are you watching a movie like this if you're just trying to nitpick CGI? Okay, and second of all, if you don't like it, then maybe they don't use CGI, and instead they've got an 80-year-old man stumbling around trying to do stunts. I mean, what would you prefer? So shut up. And you know what? There's another thing, and it's a very small thing. We'll get back on point, dude. If I got to see,
you want to go solo for this?
No, dude. It's like
sounds like you're about to go off.
No, it's just gonna be me gatekeeping again. And you know what? I think I'm just about to make a disclaimer. Like maybe we should put like a little. You should have like an overlay. You should make AJ that says JT is about to gatekeep or whatever the hell that term is for fans. If I got to see one more person, like, well, I didn't go see it yet because I didn't like the Crystal Skull. Fuck you. If I got to see it, it's same thing with the Star Wars movies. Well, because the other one wasn't good, I'm not going to see this one. Well, then you're an asshole. You're not a fan. Just because you don't like one doesn't mean you're not going to like the other. If you're a fan of Star Wars, you go see Star Wars movies. If you're a fan of Indiana Jones movies, you go see Indiana Jones movies. Don't give me this. The previous one sucked, so I'm not going to go. Well, then piss off. And I don't ever want your opinion on a goddamn movie. Shut up. Sorry, again, I'm gatekeeping, and I know that's a big deal, and I just used like a weird term that I hate, but anyway. So,
well, you brought it up, and we usually don't talk business on this show, but that has been one of the things that people have pointed out is that this thing had a $60 million opening weekend, which is terrible for a movie of this hype and budget. And what else would you attribute it to other than people saw the last one and said, nah?
It's also a lot of people that want Kathleen Kennedy to fail. So there's a lot of people that are like, well,
Yes.
Kathleen Kennedy in stars, and Disney's going to ruin everything it touches. So if we support this movie, they'll fire her, and we won't get any more.
Sean?
It's the same. Yes.
Question for you:
Yeah.
who was the executive producer on the original Indiana Jones movies?
But Kathleen Kennedy. I know.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But you know what it is? It's the same thing like all the losers. It's why you can't downgrade a movie on IMDb until it actually comes out. But all the losers that were like, they were against that Ghostbusters remake. So they all took to IMDb and they gave it credit. This is before it came out, and they review bombed it just because they didn't want to see it succeed, because they didn't agree with its existence. This is the loserdom in fandom that everybody has to deal with now. And it's just, and I'm not getting what I want, so nobody else should like it. It's I'm complaining now. I'm starting to sound like you, dude.
It's all good. I've never understood that. Like, it's funny because, with Solo, people refuse to go see, and that's supposedly a bomb because it made only $500 million or something. And people are like, well, I didn't like The Last Jedi, so I'm not going to go see it. They're like, well, you screwed yourself out of a kick-ass Star Wars movie. And now I can't tell you how many people I know that actually did that. And now they're like, you know what, dude, I wish I would have seen Solo in the theater. I'm like, well, maybe you should have gone, dickhead, because it's called Star Wars. It says Star Wars. You like Star Wars? Go see fucking Star Wars.
Unless
Stop
it's
with,
episode 9.
Okay, God, Sean, hold on a thing. look at Bill Shindelholtz. He's like, didn't see the new Indiana Jones yet, but wanted to know, are they able to use the dial to go back and bring back River Phoenix to start a new Indiana Jones series? Wow.
Too soon?
AJ, we might
We
have
got CGI Tarkin. Can we get CGI River Phoenix?
Are these the sorts of things, AJ, that we should probably avoid? Like, because we might have some news coming up here in the next 2 months. Like, these might be the sorts of things we might not want to do on our show. Oh my God! Wow. All right.
Tread carefully, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, I keep getting a sidetracked. It's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm so hyped on this damn movie, but
yeah, so I loved it, to your point about the whole thing being a trilogy. I kind of agree, because Last Crusade started with a flashback.
yeah,
And then this one starts with a flashback. And I love, like you said, it was a mini movie where it felt like this is totally an adventure that we could have seen if they had kept making movies in the 90s.
yeah,
And I noticed that even with his de-aging, they didn't de-age him all the way to Last Crusade and before. They let him be a little bit older than that because, chronologically, it was a few years after anything that we saw in the movies.
yeah.
So I thought it worked perfectly. I loved it. Now, the question I have for you guys, because I still can't answer this for myself. Helena's father's name, whatever that guy was, who was in
Basil.
the flashback, of course. Basil, yeah.
Shaw.
Yeah. I couldn't stand Oxley from Crystal Skull. Hated that character. Didn't like Oxley. Didn't like whatever the double
Mac.
triple agent guy. Mac. Yeah,
Mac,
and
yeah.
Oxley. All the new supporting characters in Crystal Skull just drove me up a friggin' wall. Couldn't stand them. I had no problems with Basil. And I can't figure out why. I can't figure out what worked so much better about him than those other characters. Can you guys make sense of that for me?
Well, I mean, Sean,
I feel like you probably agree. Let's start with that. Do you agree?
I didn't have a problem with Oxley because he was basically insane. It was the whole, the skull kind of drove him nuts. Mac, yeah, I thought that. I mean, I love Crystal Skull, but I mean, Mac was that he was kind of just. It was too over the top. I think it was very Hux-ish, but whereas they use Hux sparingly, Mac was all over Crystal Skull. Basil Shaw they barely used, so that was fine. Wombat or Helena Handbasket, whatever. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
L337.
Dude, you know what? I did not put this is how into this movie I was. I'm like, why does her name keep feeling so familiar to me? I don't know, shithead, because she was L3 from Solo, one of your favorite movies. But yeah, I would say that Mac for sure was more annoying and a lot less likable and easy to get on board with. He felt kind of more shoehorned in there as opposed to Basil. Basil did a little bit, though. I will say that Basil did a little, but I think they did it in a good way because it's almost like the new like dean at the college in Crystal Skull. You're like, where the hell's Marcus Brody? And of course they couldn't have him because he had passed. But it was like they barely used him. It's like, okay, well, and they kind of did the same thing with Basil Shaw. They were like, okay, this guy's not a big deal to the story. He kind of is, but kind of isn't. So they didn't like kind of ram him down your throat. And they made it clear that he wasn't a big like adventure guy, and so you get it. So I didn't mind that. I would say if we're just basing it on Mac alone, I'll say yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, where do you stand on that, Sean?
I have no problem. I love Oxley because I like the insanity that John Hurt brought to the role. Mac is Mac. I mean, it got annoying after a while. It's like, oh wow, you're turning. Cool, yeah, you're gonna do that. Whatever, great.
I'm a sextuple agent.
Yeah, like
oh come on,
Right.
Another rant.
Yeah, no, that's a very old show joke. The oh come on.
Anyway, sorry, I was hoping for another rant, to be honest with you. But yeah, like you said, AJ, like every new character in this movie was fine. Even Zorro's cameo was
Antonio
Banderas.
Yeah. Even like he was great. Everybody was great in it, and everybody brought something to it where I'm 100% on board with you. Mac is just friggin' annoying, but the performance is good. It's the writing for him. It's not like the guy sucks. He's not the greatest. But
I think maybe the difference is we actually got to see Basil like in the flashback. Whereas Mac was this guy that Indiana Jones supposedly knew and had this history with, but we never saw it.
Yeah.
So they're acting like old chums. I'm like, I don't know you. You're nobody.
Yeah.
Whereas, when they reference him in this movie, it's like, well, we saw him with young Indy. So now I get that connection.
Yeah.
Which there you go. One more point in favor of this for Crystal Skull. I mean, look, there's got to be a worst of everything. We ranked the Star Wars movies. Something's got to be at the bottom, even if we like it. So, saying it's better than Crystal Skull doesn't mean I'm shitting on Crystal Skull. It just means there's 1 through 5, and we know what 5 is.
Yeah,
that's it.
I mean, would you agree with that, Sean? That I think if you and I were to rank movies, like, I mean, I would put Crystal Skull at number 5, and not because I hate it at all.
Oh,
like,
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, you can only ever watch one Indiana Jones movie ever again. It has to be Crystal Skull. I'm like, sweet, I get to watch an Indiana Jones movie. Like, and honestly, that's what, like we were talking about earlier, AJ. Like, I mean, Sean, I'm sure you felt the same way. Like that was the fun of it. Like, this movie had the fun of Indiana Jones, and I think they kind of, as they added the humanity to it, I also thought that one of the things that they added that was kind of cool, the violence was a little more visceral. Like when someone like when he tells Voller, like, oh yeah, he's like, do you remember me? Like, oh, your face rings a bell. That's a callback to like that was amazing. But I mean, in the tuk-tuk chase, when they come around the corner, that dude's got that the back of it filled with pointed sticks, and the guy just hits it whack. Like they don't pull any punches. It's not just like, okay, there's an impact coming. It's implied. Like, no, they show it, you hear it, you feel it. Like, everything just hits harder. Like, the violence is kind of amped up in this one, which I thought was really kind of cool. I love that part of it. I was like, every time something happens, like, ooh. Updated Wilhelm scream was another thing. That was awesome.
Caught that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the standard Wilhelm scream, which was just like, wow, this is, I mean, that's just, again, I'm going to keep saying it, intelligent writing.
Did you catch the Godfather 2 reference?
I did not.
When they first get to Sicily, the funeral procession walks by. They're playing the music from the beginning of Godfather 2, which was written for the Godfather 2 for the funeral procession. And it's on the same street where the mob dude that kills Vito's parents, or Vito's father, is looking for him while they're sneaking him out of Italy.
I didn't know it was this.
Oh,
I knew
wow.
The exact same set and the same music, yeah.
I noticed the music,
I had
but
no idea.
Wow.
I mean, I caught the Godfather 3 reference, when, he does the whip and then everybody just whips out guns and,
That was.
But
I liked that was a double callback. That was Godfather 3 and like a reversal of the the scene with the dude with the scimitar in Raiders.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many.
Now I've heard. Can we talk about Helena? Because
Yes,
she seems to be a divisive character. Some people really liked her, and some people she got on everybody's nerves because she was duplicitous. I've heard her equated to being not a young Indiana Jones, but a young Belloc. What do you think about that?
I think that's a beautiful description. Where, although I mean, she had some good in her, I would say. You know, so but yeah, that's wow. I hadn't seen anybody say Belloc. Yeah, that's pretty much perfect. Sean, where do you stand on that? Because I think that's pretty much perfect when you think about it.
I mean, I didn't think about it until AJ just mentioned it, but
Yeah.
I'm also thinking about like
Not
AJ,
my point, by the way. I just
No, that's cool. Like most people I'm hearing complaining about her haven't seen the movie, so they're just going, "Oh, it's a setup for her to take over." Blah blah blah. But if they call her Baloche, that's badass. That is so cool.
Right. Yeah. No, that's.
She's always one step ahead of Indy, but doing it like for the wrong reasons, like for profit, not for righteous points. And that's
Wow.
Belloc to a D.
Really is.
But that's. Okay, but see now, if when you phrase it like that, I always thought Belloc was doing it for the wrong reasons too. I mean, he wanted to be a part of history and everything too, but he was just too evil. So I think the differentiation would come in the fact that Helena, she does have that good streak. Like throughout the movie, I was like, I thought they did an excellent job of making you feel like, okay, when's she going to turn on him again? You know, I wondered if we were going to get to that moment, with oh God, I'm drawing a blank on her name, the heroine from Last Crusade, the blonde woman. Like when she all of a sudden was like, she was a Nazi. You're like, oh shit, like
Elsa Schneider.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Still don't know the actress's name, but
Allison
she
Duty.
never really appeared in anything else, did she?
She was in A View to a Kill. She was one of Grace Jones's hench people.
There you go.
Okay,
I do remember
she got
her
a very
last name.
brief 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a good 15 minutes though. If you're in an Indiana Jones movie, a James Bond movie.
Oh yeah.
Like Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, dude, he's so good.
We haven't gotten around to him yet. Yeah.
I know. But yeah, like I thought Helena was an awesome character. There was always that little bit of nerves. It wasn't ever strictly okay. Now she's 100% on Indy's side, which I thought was really cool. And I thought it was right up to the point where it'd be annoying, where you're annoyed thinking about, God damn it, is she gonna turn? Like, but no, it was like it kept it fun, and it was close to, it was, man, it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was like
she kept duping me. Like every time she betrayed him, I was like, again? I thought you were done with this.
Yeah.
But it didn't annoy me.
No, I wasn't annoyed either. Because again, it was fun, and it wasn't. I think there was already enough stuff going on because they, another thing they did, they made the bad guys. I thought instead of, they weren't really clowns in this one, whereas all the other movies, like the bad guys, kind of like Spalko, I thought was a damn good villain. Say what you want about Crystal Skull, but I always believed that she was like pretty shitty. But the rest of the time, like the Nazis were kind of chumps and everything. But right off the bat in this movie, that one dude just kept shooting people, and you're like, oh my God. All right, you've raised your hand, sir. You speak from the class.
In Raiders, there are no chumps. So Raiders in this are the ones that have no chumps. My biggest problem for a longest time with Last Crusade was like, you've set up every single Nazi in Raiders to be like, oh, man, stay the hell away from these dudes.
Very good point.
You. And in the third one, it's pratfalls and stupid stuff. Like this colonel gets onto a blimp all by himself, gets thrown off, and nobody comes after them. Like the Nazi inconsistency of that annoys me a bit with Last Crusade. However, the first one and the last one, everybody's on point, and nobody's bumbling, nobody's a fool, nobody's an idiot. Even the dudes that are like in the beginning when they hang them or they're going to hang them, they mean business. They're not screwing around.
Well, like I said, like for me, it was just the shooting people, because it's like they shot the two teachers. I was like, wait, what? And then the next person he comes across, he shoots them too. I'm like, Jesus, what the hell is this mass murderer shit? Like, what is going on here? And oh my goodness! But to me, that like it added some weight to it. I really liked that aspect of it. I really, really liked it. So that was just so cool to me. Like they upped the stakes, and they added so many layers to this thing. And another added layer, AJ, you were just about to bring him up, Mads Mikkelsen. Like if you're, I mean, he was like that super diabolical henchman Indiana Jones bad guy that never really did anything to anybody. He was just so obviously powerfully in charge that everyone else did everything for him. And I thought he was fantastic in that role.
I loved the turn of his character too, where on the surface it's like, okay, he's a Nazi, so of course he just wants Hitler to win the war. And when it comes out that his plan is that he doesn't give a shit if Hitler wins the war. He thinks he can do it better than Hitler.
Yeah.
He's like, sure, kill Hitler, no problem. I'll do it better anyway.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, you're like Uber Hitler.
Yeah.
Well, he's angry, and you can tell how angry he is. He's frustrated with Hitler in the beginning when they're in the past. Like, oh, he doesn't want this because it's a fake, but I've got this, and Hitler, trust me, he wants it. He's gonna want it. And then when he's talking to the guy, oh god, the room service guy, he's like, you didn't win the war.
Oh yeah.
Hitler lost it. Like he's just angry that Hitler just got so lost in himself that the Nazis lost the war because Hitler lost the war. It's
a fun wrinkle because the idea is Hitler is the Nazis, right? He's like the emperor of history. I mean, he's the character upon which the emperor in Star Wars was based. So
yeah,
you know, this whole idea of like someone being a devout Nazi but not being a devout Hitler follower is a fun wrinkle because it's totally antithetical to the basis of the Nazis.
The whole thing is just written so damn well. Like the more and more I think about it, it's just like so much more to it. And it's kind of funny because, like, I mean, it's the longest Indiana Jones movie. It's 2 hours and 34 minutes or whatever. And my wife was sitting there in the movie. She's like, man, this movie's long. And then she and we were talking about, it went back 2,000 years. She goes, this movie's taken 2,000 years. But then we get out of the theater. She's like, I really like that. And I was like, well, Christ, it didn't seem like it. Like, wow. But she did. And, I mean, what did you guys think? I mean, it's kind of a simplistic question, but a 2.5 hour movie can get pretty lengthy, especially something like this, because there were parts that were kind of slow. I think it started feeling a little bit lengthy to me in parts, but then when it would kick back in, I was like, oh yeah, let's keep going. Like,
that's your first watch. I'm sorry to interrupt. That's your first watch.
No, you interrupt all you want.
Oh, well, no, I won't do that. But that's your first watch, and I felt the same way. Hey, I'm going to be that nerd that's like, I saw it 2 times, guys. I know better than you.
we were conspiring. Like I say, my second viewing will be this Sunday before I see Dream Theater. I don't know if you were tuned in at that point, but I'll be in Kentucky by myself watching Dream Theater, Indiana Jones, and drinking bourbon. So.
Oh, dude! So when Dream Theater plays the songs that I'm about to tell you that they're going to play,
that's not going to happen.
I'm never going to do that to you. I actually have to get running in a minute, but I want to ask you guys a quick question.
Sure.
When you saw the trailers for this and you see Indy on a horse, do you think that that's going to be the beginning of like the big third act set piece, kind of like Raiders? It's the truck chase. Last Crusade, it's the tank chase. Like when you saw the trailer, were you like, oh, okay, so something's going to happen in New York City in the third act set piece because there's a horse involved?
I did not, and 2 reasons. Number 1, it didn't feel big enough. That's what she said. And number 2, the way that Lucasfilm, it was too obvious. Come on. The way that Lucasfilm has been doing their trailers, we don't get shit from the meaty parts of the movie in their trailers anymore.
Fair.
They just
That's true.
pick some really hot spots from like the first third of the movie. I mean, hell, just look at the trailers for like Mandalorian and stuff like that. You get like, hey, wow, that looks awesome, and it happens in the first 3 minutes and 37 seconds of the first episode. So you get squat for the rest. So yeah, I did not.
Okay.
You know,
Which I love, because I mean the whole point of a trailer is to get you excited for the movie. It's not to tell you everything that happens.
Yeah.
So that's fine by me. No, I was fooled, because I saw him on a horse in a ticker tape parade, and I knew that there was, well, I didn't know, but I suspected there was something to do with time travel. So I was like, shit, he's gonna go back to like World War II. This is like VJ Day or VG Day or something. He's like back in time 20 years. It's going to be like old Indiana Jones and younger Indiana Jones teaming up or something crazy. I mean, after the end of Crystal Skull, I was really ready for any kind of bullshit in this movie. I was like, it's all on the table at this point.
Yeah. Honestly, what I thought the movie was, I thought it was like a series of flashbacks. I thought, okay, because Harrison Ford himself is like in like 81 or whatever the heck he is, like, and the de-aging was such a big topic of discussion before the movie came out. Like, I honestly thought that it was going to be, and you know, when they I've been looking for this my whole life and stuff. I thought it was going to be like him, like he would do something modern day, but I thought that a lot of it, if not most of it, was going to be like him de-aged, like doing stuff. You know, it was like a lifelong journey to find this thing. And to be completely honest, I was really glad that that's not what it was.
Yeah, I thought it might have been a concurrent storyline sort of thing where, you know, the dial was somehow like manipulating both time periods. So you'd flash back to young Indiana Jones and he'd do something, and then like current day, aka old Indiana Jones, would like do something there with the dial, and like he was basically tag teaming with himself in two different time periods to like set it up so they could win.
Yeah. No,
again, terrible idea, but after Crystal Skull, I'm like, all cards are on the table. There's nothing else on this point.
and yet the movie's so damn good. They did time travel instead of aliens and managed to pull it off. So I'd say they did a damn good job.
Yeah, it's weird to say. They kept it simple and just did time travel.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh my god!
All right, not aliens, interdimensional beings.
So,
yes,
true. That's right. Interdimensional beings. In point of fact. Well, Sean, thank you so much for jumping on the fly.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for inviting me, man.
No problem, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I got one last question for you before you sign off.
Yeah.
You got 5 indie movies now. Where does this rank?
4.
Okay.
The OT is still the OT. I mean, these movies are, and I've been saying this for years. These movies are based on B-movie serials, low budget, just turn off your brain, enjoy what's on film. They're meant to be crap, for lack of a better term. The fact that Raiders is perfect is an absolute fluke. But yeah, this would be number 4, maybe 3.
And you know what, dude? I'm gonna answer that along with him. This one almost stands alone for me. I think this one is. I hate to use the word coda for it. For the Indiana Jones series, but for some reason, dude, I feel like it's unfair to put it with the original trilogy. And I mean, Crystal Skull has to be the one that we all rank last. You know, I don't think there's any fans that would do anything but that. But I just think like this one is so different on a lot of levels, but still so good that I almost like, it's like you said, the original trilogy is the original trilogy. But this one, like, I almost feel like I'm disrespecting by saying, "Oh, it's number 4," even though you're not wrong. I feel like it's almost disrespectful to it. You know, it's like the difficulty of wedging something like Rogue One into your Star Wars rankings. You could literally rank that differently because it's like it doesn't like, and for me that's number 2 or 3. But it's like you could look at it in that context and say, well, man, but it's a great Star Wars movie. Like, this is a great Indiana Jones movie, but you don't want to disrespect it by dropping it down a list because of what came before it. You know what I mean? So I think that's where I'm coming from in this one. So man, oh man, that's. Whew.
Yeah, you're right. It is number 3.
All right. Well,
You've talked me out of it. You've changed my opinion with your gatekeeping opinion.
I'm the a-hole gatekeeper guy.
Yeah, amen, sir.
Oh, all
right,
right,
guys.
man. Well, it was awesome
Thanks.
to talk to you, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk soon. I will be emailing you Sunday night late after I get out of Megacorp Pavilion in Newport, Kentucky.
Let me know about that illumination theory opener.
I will. Oh God. Well,
I'm kidding.
I'm glad my Airbnb is refundable. But yeah, dude, keep up the awesome work with the pet rescue and stuff.
Oh,
dude.
adopt, don't shop, brothers. Adopt, don't shop, everybody.
Yep. Sean, for those of you guys
Thanks,
who don't know, Sean is like, he's been on my other podcast too, Talking Into Infinity, and Sean, as AJ and I, are enormous like pet rescue people, and Sean actually works for a rescue, so it is like his Facebook feed is all, it's like, oh, look at these cute kitties we have. So I love him for that first and foremost. So
Right on, man.
Yeah, do your
All right,
sign off,
brother.
man. Get your plugs in.
I'm Sean Faust. Adopt, don't shop. That's not. I'm serious. I love you guys, and I'm going to listen tomorrow at work while I'm cleaning the kitties.
Beautiful.
So
And
thanks so much.
book
Cool.
some more solo shows so I can actually make a road trip at some point and come watch you
Oh,
work
dude,
out.
you don't want to do that. I'm just going to play all Dream Theater stuff and make you sing it.
Oh, gee, what a shame.
I know that would suck, wouldn't it? All right, yeah, I'll book some more solo stuff.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right,
on.
brother.
Take care,
man.
guys.
Great to
Peace.
see you, dude.
All right. See ya.
So there goes Sean.
Yeah.
I had to bring him on because he's very passionate, and I was just going to basically filibuster if we didn't have somebody to help us out. So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely no.
yeah.
George has been sitting in the chat with a good comment here for a while. I said
Yes.
he thought the movie flowed well and didn't feel as long as it was. So you already talked to this point. I wanted to give my take on this real quick.
Sure.
I feel like Raiders of the Lost Ark has this break point, right? Like right before they get to the dig site and get thrown in the pit, it feels like that's kind of like a stop. Like there's action up until he gets to the desert. And then that's like most of a movie, kind of like A New Hope, where A New Hope is a movie up until they escape the Death Star. And then there's like a break when they shift to now we're attacking the Death Star.
Okay.
Both movies have this feeling like it's a complete story up to that point and the credits could roll. And I'd be like, cool, that's a movie. And then there's more. And I felt like this is kind of the same. Like I felt like I had a complete movie up until they had to go into the ocean.
Yes, that's the exact point I was thinking of as well.
That was like that hard stop where I'm like, oh, now we're doing an underwater thing. That's completely something else. Okay. But up to that point, we were probably like, what, an hour and 45 in at that point or something like that. Anyway, I was like, it feels like the runtime of a movie, and it feels like we've told a complete story that doesn't need more material.
Yeah.
You could pick it up, of course, and they did, and I love the ending, but yeah. So to the point of like, did it feel like it wasn't as long as it was? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Like I didn't feel bored or like, God, will this movie just please end already? But I did feel like there was a natural stop earlier in the story that they could have like continued on from.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. And I think the length is perfect because if you think about what you could have taken out, I think you would have been missing things. If you want to take out an action scene,
Yeah.
well, all the action scenes kind of made sense. You know what I mean? Like it was they were interesting, they were fast paced. They were, like you said, the underwater thing was totally different for Indiana Jones, and especially that one in particular. Kind of, you were like, they're down there 300 feet below the surface, and they're tied to those, the airlines and the tethers. Like you're just like, okay, what's going to happen? Like something has to happen. So there's that tension there, and but then if you take out and you say, okay, we'll take out some of the emotional scenes. Well, then that's the heart of the movie. That's what made the movie so damn good. Like, so you can't take that away either. So I thought
Sallah's
they
only
did
in
really
it for
well.
3 minutes, so that doesn't count.
Oh,
That was the one shoehorned member, Barry. That guy had nothing to contribute.
you're gonna get booted from the show again. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's like telling me that Lando Calrissian didn't belong in episode 9. That is just one of those things. It was only for like 2 minutes or whatever, and it was like, hell yes. Okay, 5-year-old
Lando had a
me-
purpose, though. Sallah came in and then actually had the line like, I want to go with you. I want to go on an adventure. And Indy's like, it won't be an adventure. Like, it totally was an adventure.
Okay, but it was like we're old men. It's not going to happen. It was like setting up Indy to be a crotchety old man. And besides, it's Sallah. What? I mean, come on. It's Sallah. What? How do you not want Sallah? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
dude,
he should have come along. He should have come along. He should not have been in there to be told stay home for this one, and he stays home for this one.
Okay, all right. I kind of agree. But I think you're already straining credulity, even with the character of Indiana Jones, to say, "Hey, look at this 70-year-old dude out there doing all this crazy shit." If you're then gonna have two 70-year-old dudes, like, oh my God, yeah. Kale's on my side. He says, "Is AJ actually bashing Sallah?"
No, I'm not bashing Sallah. I'm saying like give him more or don't include him.
Well, my buddy George says, I was waiting for him to say, too bad, I booked a ticket. Like, honestly,
Exactly.
George, I was waiting for that, too.
Exactly.
But the problem is that, but then you run the risk of them killing off Sallah, and I might have rioted in the theater. And as a bigger dude, that would be like two people rioting. So, like, that's not good.
Look at what Sallah did in Last Crusade. He didn't, like, do the things. He was there, but he didn't really do anything.
Okay, so
he
you
got
already
the camels
had that.
after he said no camels. That's about it.
No camels.
So he doesn't have to do much. He just has to be there. And they're like, nah, stay home for this one. Basically, it's like Indiana Jones saying, like, we're too old for this, but I'm going to go. Like, well, then you can both go.
But he has to go. Like, I mean, Indiana Jones has to go. And not just because it's in the script and it's his movie. I mean, again,
I don't think Sallah would have let Indy go alone. Like the whole thing with Sallah was he never, left Indy's side. He's the true sidekick.
But remember that the whole thing was Sallah, and it was also to add that emotional gravitas to the Indiana Jones. Good Lord. To add that emotional gravitas to the Indiana Jones character. I tell you what, when I record the intro,
oh, Kale coming through clutch. Yes, I totally talked over you on purpose.
That's okay.
Why couldn't Sallah be Antonio Banderas?
Because then he would have died, Kale, you dickhead.
That is true, but how awesome would that be if they're like, yeah, I know
if
this
Sallah
guy
died, it would suck.
But this whole idea of like, hey, I know a guy who's got a boat, and then Sallah turns up out of nowhere. You're like, fuck yes.
Okay, I will go along with that.
That would have been outstanding. That's the way you drop an old character in out of nowhere.
I will go along with that as long as we make the arrangement that Sallah didn't have to die in that respect. As long as they weren't going to still have him just shoot him in cold blood, then I'm fine with that.
I was surprised that Antonio Banderas died.
I was too, admittedly. No, but I mean, all right. No, you're right. That would have been a cool way to do it. But I mean, dude, Sallah was there as like the emotional. It added emotional gravitas to the Indiana Jones character. See, I got it. Because it, they say, basically they inferred that, Indiana Jones helped him and his family emigrate to America. So that's like, it shows that bit of humanity to Indiana Jones. It adds something to that character instead of, yeah, we're just buddies who were, grave robbing or whatever. So I don't mind how they did it and why they did it. I and granted, you're not wrong, AJ, because I'm fully on record saying I love the member berries shit. I love it. I'm like, ooh, remember that? Ooh, remember that? Ooh, remember that? Whereas you're a little more realistic about those things. So I understand why you would feel that way. I just don't feel like they handled it in a ham-fisted way in this. It's like you want to see Sallah, so they give him the moment, like, give him hell, Indiana Jones. Like, you do that, and then he's at the end, like, like that's fine. But as I'm talking, you and Kale, I think, have it right. They should have had the Antonio Banderas character be Sallah. But not die.
Another thing they could have done is he could have come along, but then at some point he's unable to follow for some reason, like either
his gout.
No, just his gout. Sure. No, actually, it's because he had to go get his teeth whitened again.
He had to go on a
best
quest
teeth
for a
of any
ring.
immigrant in the 1960s I've ever seen.
Good Lord, dude.
Dude, if you want to talk about something, a weird thing that just put me out, I was like, God damn it, those teeth. I can't stop looking at his teeth.
Oh, my God.
If anything needed digital up aging, it was his teeth.
Or Sallah just has excellent oral hygiene. You don't know that,
Right. But anyway, yeah, they could have had him like go on the plane and go on the adventure, but then at some point, like I forget at what plot point it would have made sense, but he loses them in a chase, and then they get abducted, or some way Sallah can't follow at some point.
Yeah.
Like he's not dead. He's just like, oh well, I can't get on that plane, and they're now on a plane for the rest of the movie, so I guess I'm out of this scene.
Sallah
Like,
has
something
asthma.
simple like that. Yeah. There are many ways they could write him off versus just, I'm going to drive you to the airport and then you're going to tell me don't come along. And I'll be like, okay, I'll stay here now.
He's following him through the airport, and they're like running because Indy's going to miss his plane. And Salah's like, I'm coming, Indy. And also he's like, Indy, my asthma, you go first. Just call that line back.
Right.
See, we just wrote it. We did it again. We wrote part of an Indiana Jones or a Star Wars movie. No, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, that it would have been cool. And Kale says it would have sucked to lose him, but it gives Indy an ally and makes his death more meaningful. Man, I'll be honest, Kale, I was really afraid of seeing somebody like one of the main characters die in this. I was fully prepared for Indiana Jones to die for some reason, and I would have been absolutely furious. In the Star Wars universe, it kind of makes sense. It's a big, broad thing. It's a huge story that's going on over all these different planets and timelines and all. So Indiana Jones is Indiana Jones. Don't be killing off Sallah. Don't be killing off Marion Ravenwood and all this stuff. Like, obviously, Sean Connery was gone and all this kind of stuff, so he had to do that. But George Gomez asks a good question, by the way, AJ, because I think I noticed this, but I don't remember if I was correct or not. He doesn't either. He says, real quick, there was a scene where the footbridge broke, and later they show them, and it's back together. Was it the same bridge or different? Did you catch that? George, I did catch that. And I was
did
trying
not.
to... I
I'll be
did...
looking for that on my second watching for sure.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure that out, and then I just realized I missed it because I got so caught up in the rest of the movie. I was like, damn it, what happened to the bridge? The Led Zeppelin. Where's that confounded bridge?
Right?
There you go. There's a crossover to my other show. But yeah, George, you're not alone. I thought that too. So that's something I'll have to keep an eye on for. Or eye out for,
That did not
excuse
stick out to me. The one question that neither of us have been able to answer, though, so maybe George can chime in on this one, or Kale, since he's really good at this stuff.
Yeah.
Isn't Indiana Jones still wanted for murder when he gets back to his own time?
You know what? I was so glad they kind of dropped that. And they didn't. It's one of those things they don't have to explain. But I was so glad that they dropped it. I was like, damn it.
It's a weird happily ever after to go like, yay, Marion's back. I mean, I'm still a fugitive from the law right now, but yay.
See, that's what they could have done. That's how they make the hat grab at the end. Make that really make sense. Like,
have a police siren in the background.
Well, have the cops bust in and they're like trying to drag him out. They cuff him behind his back, and all of a sudden it shows the hat. But then his hand comes out and grabs the hat. So it's like, oh, that's a total Indiana Jones move. He can go backwards out the window with his hand and grab the hat before he gets hauled off by the cops because he's wanted for murder.
Right. So it's not like a slowly descending stone door in a temple or something. No, it's the cops hauling him off, and that's why he has to grab the hat at the last second instead.
Yep. Kale says he never should have been wanted for murder because he clearly had nothing to do with it. All they have is 2 dead bodies. And George says, yeah, they glazed over that.
Which actually is a very low body count because Indy's killed a shitload of people over his career.
Yeah, but they weren't Nazis, so they didn't give a crap.
Yeah, his body count is it's high. It's very high.
It's very high. I know how he got out of it. It was the late 60s, and when they said, you're wanted for murder, and I'm like, no. The communists did it. And then like, oh, let's go find the communists because it was the late 60s.
Yeah, the Red Scare gets them out.
Indiana Jones is saved by the Red Scare. That's the Marvel one shot they're gonna do for Indiana Jones after this one. It's gonna be Indiana Jones and the Red Scare. It's gonna be just like 5-minute movie about how he gets out of the murder charge by blaming commies. Oh man! All right, so let's wrap up here soon in a second. But
Mhm.
I mean, final thoughts. I just love it, and it's and I don't know that I'll nitpick it as I watch it more. I think I'm just going to love it more. I've been so into seeing it again, and the more I think about it and talk to my friends about it, and I think the ultimate testament to this movie is the fact that if you want to compare it to the reaction to Crystal Skull, not just saying Crystal Skull had a negative reaction. My friends, when they commented online in reviews I saw, people were nitpicking individual details. Well, this part sucked. The monkeys sucked. The ants were stupid. Aliens, blah, blah, blah. Whereas this one, people are like, I like it. And that's their thing. They're not sitting there trying to go, well, the time travel was dumb. Like, I actually haven't seen a single person that I know that saw the movie was like, time travel, fuck that, people just had a good goddamn time at an Indiana Jones movie. And I think that's why this movie is a success, because that's really all you want. I mean, that's all I wanted. I wanted to go into this movie, and I mean, dude, you were with me when we saw Solo, and I was in the chair, and not just saying this, like physically going, yeah, oh yeah, like I like to cheer and something get me that riled up. Those moments where I just like, like a little kid, and I did that with this movie several times, and I wanted to be entertained. I wanted to see my second favorite movie character of all time just doing his thing, and come out of it being like, man, please don't end on a low note. And it ended on a high note for me. It was just crazy entertaining. It's making me want to see it again. My friends are having a good time, so I have more people to talk to about it. And again, for me, this is the end of a 42-year journey with this character. Not to be cheesy about it, but again, like I said to start the show, I saw Raiders 17 times in the theater when I was a little kid, when I was 5 years old. So I rode my bike from Strongsville, Ohio to Berea, Ohio to the library to watch an hour-long making-of documentary at the library with a bunch of little kids, of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, I've slept and breathed this character since I was 5, and this was a perfect way to close the book on him for me. This is everything I could have hoped for. It reminded me of everything I love about the character, why I love Indiana Jones, but it added something to it, and it ended it with feeling and with heart and emotion that you didn't have in this series previously. And I think that shines a new light on the character for the rest of the films, which you can't ask anything better than that. So I love this movie, and I can't wait to see it again. So those are my final thoughts. What are yours?
My final thoughts is that I think you nailed it by saying that this is a good coda for the series. Like, we have the first 3 movies to see Indiana Jones in his prime. We got the 25-minute flashback at the beginning of this one, which, thanks to modern technology, we got to see young Indiana Jones one more time, which was awesome.
Yep.
So we did kind of get like that 4th Indy in his prime kind of adventure in a shortened form, which was amazing. Now, obviously, I don't have the same memories of Raiders of the Lost Ark as you do, because I was probably less than 1 year old or just 1 year old when that movie came out. So my memories really start with Last Crusade. I saw Temple of Doom maybe in the theater. I don't remember, but I have way more memories of Last Crusade. One we had it on VHS, so I have to watch it all the time. But you're right. Like, it's been a long time that we've lived with this character, and obviously we are older and more mature and have more experience. So we like seeing our characters age up with us. And not to get too personal, but obviously we've got some stuff going on in our family right now with our father.
Yeah.
And I felt a lot of the issues that Indy was facing in this movie, as far as like he's at the stage of his life where he's looking back on it now and feeling like, he's missing his prime years and all his heyday and stuff. And, we're going through that in our own lives right now, through other family members. And so it hits differently. So I think that'll stick with me too. But I love the fact that, they ghost dropped Marion at the end to give it this little bit of hope that, like, just reminds you that even though it's sad for everybody who loves this character, because Harrison Ford is victim to time like the rest of us, and this is the last time we're going to see him don the fedora. But he got to, even though he's the character who always ends up on the short end of the stick, right? Like he gets the thing, it gets taken away. He gets the thing, it gets taken away. Like whether it's a woman or an archaeological find or, you know, a claim to be the first of something, you know, he's always like the hard luck hero where he gets the thing and then it's gone by the end. And then he learns a lesson about how that wasn't the real thing that he was searching for all along.
Yeah.
And he gets to end this one by getting all the things and keeping all the things as far as we know. Marion's back, and he's resolved all the things that were haunting him when the movie started. So as far as we're concerned, Indiana Jones sails off into the sunset with all the things he deserves, and he's reconciled all the loss that he's endured along the way.
Yep.
And I think that's perfect. I love that hopeful message at the end of this heartfelt movie.
I completely agree. And it ends perfectly. Like, you know, I heard you're back. You know, are you back? And didn't you think, yeah, he's back? Like, you just figure he's gonna, even if he doesn't do all these crazy adventures going forward, he's gonna be that stronger, not beat down dude. You know, he's gonna be Raiders Indy instead of you know 1969 moon landing Indy that we saw at the beginning of the movie. And that's just, you know, it leaves, in spite
of all that happened, he got the girl from the first movie.
Yeah, Indy ends where you want him to, and I think that's brilliant. So yeah, this is a fantastic movie. If you guys haven't seen it, you basically have now. We spoiled it all for you, so sorry about that. But
if you haven't seen it and you've listened to an hour and 36 of us prattling on about it, the hell you doing?
Yeah. You could have seen, like, you'd only have 58 minutes of the movie left to go if you were in a theater. So, but yeah, guys, like, honestly, our recommendation, like, man, if you see crappy reviews or you're turned off by the Crystal Skull, like, go see this movie. I'm telling you, like, and you know, granted, we're total homers, me especially, for Indiana Jones, but I'm telling you, this is a super fun movie. It definitely takes you on a ride of highs and lows, and when you leave the theater, you're gonna have that hell yeah moment. Like, it's Indiana Jones. That's, you know, you're like, you just leave the theater going, fuck yeah, Indiana Jones, man. Like, and that's what this whole thing's been about. So. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Obviously, we have to thank our good friends Kale McLeish and George Gomez for jumping in the chat and driving the conversation. Danbo22, good to see you. Bill Schindelholtz, haven't seen you in a bit. Circle J, of course. Man, we got to get together, dude. That's been way too long. Matt Sherrick, who I might have spoiled it for, but he's on spoiled it for. He's on vacation. And, man, you guys just...
Sean Faust.
Yes, Sean Faust for jumping on and guesting with us on the fly. That was awesome. We may have some cool news coming up here in the next couple months, guys, so stay tuned to the show. We might have some interesting new developments for the show that we are very, 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 very excited for. So we've been doing this since December of 2015, and this is probably going to be the biggest change to the show. Just not a change, I would say, just an addition to the show, and it's going to be really, really cool. So can't announce
before the rumors
yet.
Start flying. No, I'm not pregnant.
With emotion, with a baby. Fuck off. There's a movie we should deep dive. Knocked Up. That movie's so good. But anyways, yeah. So we potentially have some really, really cool news for the show coming up here shortly. So as soon as we can announce anything, we will, and I'll probably have some special guests on to help us make an announcement. But we'll see what happens as time goes on. So in any case, thank you guys very much for tuning in to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Don't forget, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. Go get your customizable Nerf Herder Council swag at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. AJ, you should make an Indiana Jones shirt. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, please click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every single time that we go live. So, until next time, I am your host, JT, at Dog Pound Jedi. He is AJ.
At Drake Adams, 579.
And we will catch you next time.